What positions did you play?
I'm trying to.
Well, you said you talk on the phone during it, so why didn't matter?
Because I have 15. I literally have 15 elite series.
You got it in 15. You got it in 5.
Yeah.
No, just
So-
answer the question. What positions did you play?
In football, I play fullback and linebacker.
Oh yeah, that's right. What about on offense?
I-
Oh, fullback, my bad. I don't know why.
So sketch a diagram of the situation and use arrows. Oh, this is Mario. Okay, sketch a diagram of the situation
What do you
and
mean?
use
Oh yeah.
arrows to represent the position and velocity of the rocket at 0 seconds. Clearly show which way you're defining to be the positive
You should
direction.
say you're Mario again.
I'm Mario.
Make sure.
Alright, so
Alright,
as you can see right here, when the rocket is shot upwards, which I made the positive direction, it starts with a higher velocity, and as it goes up, the velocity decreases until it reaches 0.
So you can see the mouse.
Yeah, and then the velocity increases as it falls back down, but it's in the negative direction. And from that, we get our velocity time graph right here, and you see the velocity starts high, and then decreases till it gets to 0, and then increases in the negative direction. And from this we get our acceleration time graph, and the way we find our acceleration time graph is from the slope of our our velocity time graph. And we know gravity cools down at a acceleration of about 10 or 9.8, and we just use 10 because it's easier. So our first question is, what is the change in velocity of the rocket? Alright.
No. 23.5. Because it starts off at 23.5. Because the initial.
Alright, well, the initial velocity is 23.5. It goes up to 0, and then as it goes back down to 23.5.
No, it goes back down to 0. It's 23.5 just before it hits the ground.
Yeah. So it goes back as it falls down, it increases till it gets 23.5.
But at the end, it's at 0.
Right before it hits the ground, it's gonna be 23.5.
Yeah, I know it is.
Right before it hits the ground, it's gonna be 23.5.
But when it hits the ground, what is it?
It has to stop. It's not
0.
gonna go through the ground. It's gonna go to 0. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to go by when it hits 0, not just before it hits 0.
Well, unless you go by what you're saying and how it starts a little bit above the ground and shot off. So technically,
Okay, yeah, we could get a little technical now.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how it's going to be.
And how fast was the rocket traveling when it was launched? And how do you know? Okay, well, we know at half the time, if our time was 4.69 for the slow rocket, we cut that in half and we get 0. So we're only going to get half of the velocity graph right here, and we find the area of that, and we used this formula for the height and this formula to find the velocity, which is 23.5. So after you find the height, and the max height was
if you listen to all of them,
27.
This long. Look at this.
That's crazy.
31 hours.
27.6 meters would be the maximum height, and that's half the way. And that's why I said half the way. What am I saying right now?
I don't know. I totally zoned out. I was doing some calculations.
Change in velocity. How fast I was traveling in this line? She said 23.5 because of this. Finding 1/2 time times height. What does that mean? I don't even know. What was the maximum height of the rocket? We just that was 23.6. My brother.
That's your brother?
Yeah. What was the total distance?
You sure it sounds far?
What was the total distance the rocket traveled, and how did you figure it out? So total distance is going to be going up 27.6 by fault. Going up 27.6 and adding another 27.6 for the second time, it's kind of covering the same amount of space. And when you add those together, Take it out.
It's not your brother. The lights off.
Think about it.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness. 20, 27.6 times 2 equals 55.2. So the total distance is going to be 55.2 meters. And we find this out because half the distance going up is going to be 20, max height 23.6, 27.6, 27.6, and then the rest away is another 27.6, and you add those together for the total distance, and that gives you 55.2. And to find the total displacement, in other words is change in position. So if it starts here, it's going to end back on the ground, so the change in position is 0.
vertically.
Yeah, vertically 0.
Horizontally, the wind could have done.
Are your answers different in the last two questions? Yes, they are different because total distance, you find the absolute value of both and just add them together. And for total displacement, the negatives do come into account. So if it goes up 23.6, and then you know it's going down, so that's going to be negative another 27.6. When you add the positive 27.6 plus the negative because it went down, it's going to come to 0. So the displacement is 0. Okay, and that was for our slowest. Time. And the next time up for the medium was going to be, it looks like 6 seconds. That was the medium. And we used everything the same. Initial 0. Half the time is 3. And you're going to add that to half the acceleration, which is over here, negative 10, times times 9. Why is it times 9?
Just 3 squared.
Oh, times squared. And times squared,
For going half the weight.
yeah. And half times 3, and then 3 times 3 is 9. And that comes out to 45, and that gives you the max height. And so instead of 27.6, it's going to be 45. And that's if that's for 6 seconds. The max height is 45. And if we plug that into our next equation, you find out velocity is 30 because it's 1/2 velocity, which we don't know. You know this is 45, and you know time is 3. So when you multiply it out and get v on its own, it's 30. So you know initial velocity is going to be 30, and final velocity is going to be 30. And again, my explanation for 8 and 9, the total distance traveled and total displacement. Total distance is absolute values added together, and displacement is not. The negatives come into play, and they cancel out and become 0. So displacement 0 because it ends where it starts. That's change in position. Okay, that's it.